So let's talk about how to actually create a surface with the Android SDK. So as we said, a surface is essentially a container which casts a shadow. We can identify which views in our hierarchy are surfaces and set appropriate backgrounds and elevation values. So let's start with a simple example and create a screen that contains a single surface that casts a shadow. So here I am in Android Studio looking at a simple activity layout file. I have a frame layout which will be our surface. I can give it a height and width and some margins and set its background here to white. To create a surface, the key thing is I can set this elevation value here. Here I'm setting 4 dp, and Android will render that as a shadow for us. The elevation is the distance of surfaces above the backplane. Higher values produce larger shadows. So here we are running this on a device, and as we can see, our frame layout is casting a shadow along the bottom edge onto the background behind. This clearly shows that it's a separate surface. Back in Android Studio, I can duplicate our surface a couple of times, so the same frame layout, but here I'm setting different values for the elevation. So we have one surface with 4 dp, a second surface at 8 dp, and a third at 16 dp in front of the backplane. Running this, we see that Android renders these 3 different surfaces with different shadows. So here's a subtle shadow, a little more noticeable, and more noticeable still. The higher the elevation values produce a larger, more diffuse shadow, giving the appearance of being higher up or further in front of the backplane.
Let's get our feet wet and apply this concept to an app mock screen by making it more material with some surfaces. The goal of this app, Walk-In, was to replace those buzzers you receive at restaurants. Instead of sticking within a short range, you could scan a QR code, get on a list, then go off and do whatever you wanted until you were notified that your table was ready. It was one of those apps I developed back in 2011. You could call it a bit vintage, back when Android-specific design hadn't taken off yet. So how would we use surfaces to make this screen more material? The image and the restaurant information are related, so they should be on their own surface. The items in the queue are also related. That's another surface. The last surface is the button bar down here. It'll be replaced for other reasons, but for the purpose of this exercise, it also should be a surface. What's the standard elevation for an app bar? The standard elevation for an app bar is 4 dips. In the elevations and shadows section of the material design guidelines, we have a chart here that lists the resting elevation of different view types. Now, if we scroll down this list, we can see here that the resting elevation is 4 dips.